Todd McLeod.
Mr. Speaker.
Todd McLeod.
Mr. Speaker, as a backbencher, one could be forgiven for being a bit apprehensive to have to stand and speak so soon after the Leader of the Opposition. And then I realised I've been here longer than him in my second term. Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that was a desperate speech from an invisible man that disappointed almost everybody in this country except for Goliath and the other Davids in the Labour Party. And I saw a glint in David Cunliffe's eye, who's ready for another shave so soon tomorrow morning. You see, Mr. Speaker, that's a leader of a party and an opposition party that are out of touch. On this side of the House, we're focusing on what matters for New Zealanders and on the big picture. Building a more competitive and productive economy, one of the four main priorities we've set in this turn of the government. Now, what are we going to do in this area, Mr. Speaker? It's so important that we focus on the things that will help New Zealanders do more for themselves. We've said over the next 4 years, you've heard today in this House from our Deputy Prime Minister, $8 billion of new spending on infrastructure in New Zealand. $8 billion of infrastructure spending that will help us become more competitive, help us become more productive and help our businesses do more for an exporting country. We've said we want to focus on and spend more on R&D, science and innovation. The budget delivered this year will give us $385 million of extra spending on science and innovation over the next 4 years. By 2015-2016, Mr. Speaker, $1.3 billion every year will be spent by this government on R&D and science and innovation. And we're focusing to double the business spend on R&D to be 1% of GDP over that period of time as well. Now, what will that do for us in this country, Mr. Speaker? This will be focused spending on R&D and infrastructure, not money thrown around willy-nilly as we saw over 9 years of a Labour government, but focused on the important parts of our economy where New Zealanders can expect a return, where New Zealanders can expect bang for their taxpayer buck. And there's going to be a number of important areas to my electorate and other electorates around the country, in forestry, in dairy, in agriculture and in geothermal, Mr. Speaker. Forestry is very important to our economies. We produce more trees than many other parts of the world. These trees that are growing produce jobs, the backbone of many of our provincial areas and their economies. In my electorate, we have an organisation called Zion, so the cutting edge of some of the work that's done around this R&D. They're doing a fantastic job on our behalf, and as a government I'm proud that we're backing them to do so much more in forestry, in dairy, in agriculture and in geothermal. And I want to repeat that, Mr. Speaker, $1.3 billion of taxpayer spend the government will put in place by the year 2015-2016. Now, in infrastructure, we're talking about roads, and we're talking about building production, productivity, competitiveness, which returns more for our exporters. And, Mr. Speaker, if we focus on this, what will this do? It'll be jobs, investment and growth. Now, in the Bay of Plenty, where we grow more trees than many other parts of New Zealand, where we have hard-working farmers, dairy farmers, we have others that produce things to export, we have excellent MPs, every single one of them, that's right. Every single one of them a hard-working elected constituent MP. We have a road of national significance. A road of national significance. I call it the Tipoki Bypass, others call it the Tauranga Direct Road. And what it does is it links the provinces to a port, Mr. Speaker. 23 kilometres, 4-lane highway from Paengaroa in my electorate through the electorate of Tony Ryle to Timanga in the electorate of the hard-working Minister Simon Bridges. $567 million for that road in 2015 costs. It will reduce the return. The member opposite says, what a waste. What a waste, she said. It will reduce the drive. The return journey will be reduced by 24 minutes. It started in 2011. It will be finished by 2016. And what that means, Mr. Speaker, is the member opposite, who occasionally shows up in the Bay of Plenty, says what a waste of money. It means all of the things that we produce, all of those trees, all of those other things will be delivered to our port more quickly, so those businesses can be more productive, so they can sell them overseas and be more competitive. They will reinvest that money in jobs. To that member opposite who lives somewhere near Hamilton, has no idea about this important road in the Bay of Plenty and backing people of the Bay of Plenty. Mr Speaker, this is a government focused on the big picture.
Order. The Honourable John Banks.
Speaker.